Welcome everyone, obviously, round 21 review here, Hussein and Christopher as always, the Bulldogs ambassador. I mean,
Why am I ambassador?
Because you tipped their game right again.
I did, didn't I? Yeah.
And the Candle's going to welcome you back in because they didn't cover. But anyway, interesting round. I think the theme of this one definitely was...
No one quits.
It's just stupid. Like, we come out 12 days in advance and say, all right, this is the round of quit jobs. And we sit and hypothesize, all right, who can the underdog be? I was even quoted saying, I think pretty much every favourite besides Tigers will win. And in the end, I think Cowboys were one of the only favourites that covered.
Yeah,
so
them and Sharks.
I think,
obviously.
irrespective of, like, getting early line value or whatever, like, unless you took Sharks and fucking Cowboys, like, you just got killed on any of the minus lines. In terms of public underdogs that won outright, I think a lot of the world was on Titans. So that line opened at like 10, went to 8, 6, 4, and again, Broncos. Like, I've seen everything with you cunts, but yeah, another underdogs round, which like really leaves me fucking scratching my head in the race for the 8. Because all these teams, like, they give up and then ran out of nowhere. It's like, now we're still alive.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. The bookies are also having this issue. Like, they just don't know where to set the lines at this point, and that's why a lot of teams covered and lost, right? As well, because the spreads are just wrong. But yeah, they don't seem wrong pre-game. So yeah, that's pretty much it's gist of the round. The one that was wrong pre-game is fucking Tigers.
No, I refuse to believe that.
Tigers.
Look, I think, like, I'm not going to come on salty because it's Tigers and they're awful, but officiating wise, I thought this round was like particularly bad in terms of inconsistency and like decision making. So Tigers come out and score in 2 minutes. I'm like, these cunts are possessed. They might win outright. 2 seconds later, obviously it's Tigers, so they concede a couple. But again, like, same story with these pricks. They score early, you think like they're in the game, and then you blink and they concede 3 tries because their edge defense, particularly on the right-hand side, I can barely look at these cunts, but they don't just roll over since the Sharks game where they conceded 50. They hang in, they hang around. Their attack's frisky enough that they get points on the board, which I've been saying for a couple of rounds. Like, I did contemplate playing this in a Tigers team total over situation because Cowboys, I know it's a mirage that they've been like keeping teams to 16 or whatever, but these cunts can't defend. But obviously, like, cunts came at us in the comments saying, oh, like, your ladder challenge, you've lost all your legs, blah, blah, blah. But to get on a 10.5 point underdog, that's like, cut the game to 4, have the ball, normal kick set, blah, nothing happens, and then Justin Olam puts a pretty big hit on Helam Lukey. He stays down, tries to milk the penalty, gets up to play it, and then the ref's like, nah, hang on, like, let's have a look at this. And off the replay, like, I kind of even felt like he shoulders his chest and it bounces up, and maybe there's a bit of whiplash that forces his head to go back. At worst, I looked at Chris and I was like, you know, they've been pretty sensitive. Like, we might see 10 in the bin. And I hear Chris Butler like, yeah, you're confirming send-off here? And I was like, even at that point, I was like, oh, maybe he's just fucking cooked. Like, his terminology is probably all over the place. This is definitely going to be 10 in the bin. And he goes, highly forceful, direct contact with the head, send-off. And I'm like, there's 30 minutes to go. Yeah. Like, these cunts are going to lose by 100.
And they still tried. And Cowboys gave freeway after freeway. And look, they might have 12 wins, but I don't think there's a team in the 8 that's scared of these cunts.
Yeah, no way.
I don't even... Oh, I was going to say one team is really not scared of them, but that's a stretch. After this week, you know what? I'm going to say it. Even Dragons are not scared of these cunts.
Yeah, fair enough.
And Dragons had him by, like, the scruff of the neck. Fatala Mariner.
The scruff of Fatala Mariner's
head. So, look, like... I don't think anyone's scared of Cowboys, regardless of how many they win. Obviously, if they get in the 4, it'll be really annoying, but if they don't...
come on.
If they don't, then it's all good. So, look, Tigers, they fought, they probably just missed out on the line Maybe
it was the Papali'i.
Yeah, like they were on a roll, and then Papali'i dropped it, which, fair play for going yourself. I think you saw Dearden in front of him. He's like, I'm going to run straight over him. So, look, I know he got a lot of slack for that, not passing, but, like, when you go from dummy half, even the call of, like, what we've commonly seen in this scenario is when someone makes a break, even if someone makes the tackle, the next tackle, they're offside anyway. So even if Papali'i kind of thought, all right, if I even drop it, they're going to give 6 more and give a penalty, so then it's all good. But again, like, Chris Butler goes, oh, no, this one isn't 6 more. Yeah. So it's garbage, but this is what happens, right, in this sport. So, look, Tigers gave it everything they had, which they've had done pretty much like,
Most
I want
rounds.
to say 80% of the games. They've only quit like the Dragons, the Sharks from memory.
Yep.
And really everything else, they've been in the game no matter what. And again, they gave it a go this time, just missing out on the line. I guess that's kind of repercussion for the week before because they covered the line in the last minute against Warriors. So it's 15-all at that point. Unfortunately, Premium got off to a loss. It seems like our Thursday form from last year...
completely done a
Our
180.
Thursday form last year was incredible. But a sight to behold, to be honest.
Agreed.
But this year has not been played out the same, and that's when these sort of games kind of edge you out. So Cowboys, I'm not scared of them. Tigers, let's see how much... Look, if the league is just heading in the same direction, they're going to fight until the end. So they can't even blow out their lines too much because Tigers do show heart, unlike pretty much everyone but one team this week. No, two. There's one of them that I'm going to fucking blow up at. But everyone else kind of had a crack. So are Tigers going to continue having a crack? I think the back is kind of broken.
I agree.
Because of the next game.
Which, perfect segue, Chris.
Perfect segue into the other team who was very at the bottom, now pretty much home
well off,
because it's Tigers. The Parramatta Eels ambushed the New Zealand Warriors with Sean Johnson's return and beat the shit out of them, to be honest.
Yeah.
I want to give myself praise for this because I said the Warriors can't score in the 10 and Para's defense isn't that bad in the 10-metre line, and it was on show. Warriors got to the 10-metre line, couldn't score. Got to the 10-metre line, got score. The same garbage as every other round that they play in New Zealand, that they actually have 20 sets on the other opposition line in the first 20 minutes, and they had that again, but this time Para were actually going in 0-all. And then Jake Tungo scores at the other end. Warriors get a try back. It's 6-4, and then capitulation. I mean, to let Azzy walk straight
Off
through
the
from the
dropout,
dropout, I mean, that is absolutely awful. I think I'm going to leave the rest of the Warriors to you because, wow, I could go on all day about these pricks.
Look, preseason expectations coming off the prelim appearance last season was obviously sky high. Johnson had one hand on the Dahlia medal before Kalen snatched it off him right at the end of the season, and there was really no reason to expect such a regression from these cunts. And even like when I watch them now, I can't put my finger on why they're so god awful. So to me, it really just becomes a simple situation of take out Johnson's form from last year and then put in Johnson's form from 2 years ago, and now like they literally can't score. And the scary thing is, as awful as Harris Tavita and Tamari Martin are, as in terms of being elite level halves in the competition, their attack's actually better when those two are there, which really goes to show like how awful Shauno has been this whole season.
I mean, the form has just shined off, right? And I think like last year was 1 in a million. Unfortunately, he didn't get the Dahlia medal, which we'll get to that. But like,
simply put, like
gone.
There's no reason any team in the NRL should be down 30-4 to Eels.
Yeah, I mean, Eels evolved, but not without Mitch.
No. Like,
this is the second team that have lost to Mitch. I mean, without Mitch.
The only other pricks that gave these cunts to win was Cowboys.
And they actually did it at Bankwest, so that's a bit different.
Agreed.
On the road.
Is that their first road win of the whole season?
First road win of the whole season at New Zealand.
So, Warriors this season are boasting an infamous record at home of blowing a 12-point lead to Sharks, 12-0, blowing a 12-point lead to Titans, losing to the fucking Azzy-led Parramatta team. What else is there?
They blew a 12-0 lead against Melbourne.
They blew 12-0 to Melbourne and lost 13+.
They top 60 against Titans. You can add that in. Not at home, though.
Hilariously, the only team that actually covered against in New Zealand was Broncos, which, again, going to segue to them very shortly. But just before I put a bow on these cunts.
But also they quit as well. Broncos didn't take anyone there.
Exactly,
so, fair,
the Broncos C team, which their A team's struggling enough as it is. But Warriors, like, I don't know where the fuck, like, what went wrong for you guys. Honestly, coming into the season, I had you guys penciled in the top 4, but the only top 4 you're making is if they flip the ladder upside down, because you can't, like, why would the fuck would they try again after getting raped by Kyle?
I think they're definitely in the one of the biggest conversations in terms of they're going to quit. Because
that's just so demoralizing.
We'll get Broncos the next one, so the segue. And South, I think, are in the...
Oh, South. I'll wait till I get my hand on you guys.
I think those 3 teams have quit. So for Parramatta, they're not going to come last now. Like, they showed some heart. And I think they have, like, some easy games. So, not next week, but coming up. But they have shown heart in a lot of the games, and that's why they've covered back-to-back games now. They covered at home to Melbourne, and now they covered on the road. So
which we did say a couple of weeks ago, right? Like, as hideous as any team's been playing, there's always, in punting, always that buyback point of, all right, at what point is this team, like, everyone knows how pitiful they are, and the market finally catches up to how pitiful they are, and then, all right, maybe they're not that bad, and you can start, like, getting an opportunity for them. Obviously, our job as punters is timing that, which, you know, for some teams, I think Titans early on, where no one wanted to borrow them, we started backing them multiple weeks in a row, made good coin. Same thing with Souths once they started covering. Broncos has been the one, which, again, good transition into the 3 p.m. come Saturday.
Well,
where,
actually, I wanted to say Para actually 3-peated, because we forget they covered against Titans as well for no reason.
Yeah, so, by half a point. Yeah. Melbourne by half a point, and then obviously, like,
they're going to win one.
Any, like, trend of a stock or whatever, there's always going to be that random spike back. Yeah. And to me, like, there was... I cannot... To me, this was the most shocking result of the round. Not in terms of winning or, like, the result of the game, because hands down, that goes to Dragons. But to look up at the scoreboard and see 30-4, 4 points, Para literally concede 4 points in 1 second to every other team in the comp. Correct. For you cunts to have 4 points and also have 6 points against Titans, 10 points against other pricks, score 12 against Melbourne and then not score for 5 hours, like... I guess at this point in the season, like, your attack is what it is, and it's not good.
Well, actually, I don't want to boast Para fans because they're second last. Who cares? But their defense actually since the Titans game has been much better.
Yeah, much better.
Even the Melbourne game, like, again in the 10, they've been defending great. To be honest.
Well, it's easy to defend Melbourne.
Well, well, in the 10, they've been defending great, and they have the last 3 rounds. And hindsight now to only keep Titans to 26 is actually very, very good.
They're just the fucking globetrotters
these days. And speaking of the Gold Coast Titans, we can go on to that. They beat the shit out of the Broncos.
Yeah, beat the piss out of them.
Let's say they beat them in the second half because Broncos came out, Walsh absolutely on fire. I mean, the second try, wow.
Yeah.
Reece Walsh, look, I think he gets a lot of hate because he talks a lot and he, like, does some stupid things on the field, but I mean, this guy has been essentially, in my book, keeping this team alive. The rest of them can hang their heads ashamed.
Agreed.
He has been the best player on the park by a long shot. Maybe Carrigan comes close, but, I mean, he's been just outstanding. Regardless of how bad they end up being, Reese's, keep your head high, son. You've been excellent. And that's why you got picked in the team over Kalen for Origin as well, because you've been great. And he sparks the offense. And really, the offense outside of him is just pitiful.
Yeah, nothing.
Reynolds, I don't know, you've fallen off a cliff as well. It seems like the spark of last year is gone. Unfortunately for Haas and Ezra, of course, they both got injured in this one. I don't want to say long-term injuries, but in terms of the Broncos season, it might be better just to make them like long-term injuries because there's no point of coming back now.
I don't think you'll see either of them in for the season.
Similar to the Warriors, which we didn't actually say in the Warriors game. You can strike through...
Did someone die?
No. You could strike through the Warriors season completely.
Yeah, agree.
But you can also strike through the Brisbane season after this. They ended up losing to the Titans, and Titans are now fucking on a roll.
Yeah.
They're playing great footy, and Des has really turned them around.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess maybe I think one thing we might have fucked up a little bit in the preseason is our expectation of Des to come and just flick a switch from day one. Obviously, what we're seeing with the Bulldogs, now Titans to a lesser degree, is that it takes a little bit of while to implement.
We missed the game, but...
Did we?
Yeah, like, again...
Dolphins. It was so pointless. Yeah.
It was so...
All right. We'll finish. We'll put a bow on this, and then we'll revert back. I have heaps to say about Roosters. But, yeah, look, it takes a little bit of a longer period of time to maybe implement a system where we know Des can coach. We didn't know Serraldo could coach, but now we know that. But, this has the fingerprints of a Des Hasler team all over it. They're expansive with the footy, which Titans have always been. But now they don't just leak points like the Titans of old. And I think once they get a lead, they have a little bit more of a brain to them to not just fucking... Like when they lost that 22-0 lead to Dolphins, I don't think the Titans of this year would do it.
No.
Similar to when Holbrook was coaching. So Broncos, as Chris said, come out really god-awful again.
Yeah.
Reece Walsh puts 12 points on the board by himself with just individual brilliance. And once Haas goes down with the Liz Frank and Mam goes down, like, these cunts are already garbage. So you're going to take away those two in the middle of the game and you're going to start giving Titans some possession. Obviously, Titans copped that sin bin before halftime at the scoreline of 16-10. Broncos take the 2 thinking they're gangsters. And that was the last 2 that they scored for the whole game. And that second half just, like... all right, if you're going to lose to Titans, that's fine. The same way Dolphins lost to them last week. Like they can. Titans, annoyingly enough, are actually a team that chase points very well.
Yeah,
and it's like when they score in 1 or 2, it can turn into 3 or 4 very quickly. And they've done that to many sides this year, so that's no shame. But for 18-10 to turn into 46-18, like that's just really shows where Broncos are as a club this season. And Kevy in the post-game conference, he looked like a defeated coach, and he's alluded to there being bigger problems at the club than just the wins and losses that they've been. Well, there's no wins except Knights, which I'm going to get to those pricks as well. But they're just awful from Brisbane. It's been the season from hell, and it just goes from bad to worse.
Look, I actually want to call out Kevy at this, because what we would say doesn't usually happen, right? And it goes down to the hypothetical, like I had the reel of the 5 stars, which almost hit today, like this close. But
you need a 6 star.
The theory is, like, when you're going into halftime, you're up 18-10, all right, cool. You know that Ezra and Haas aren't coming back. And the team looked like they knew Ezra and Haas weren't coming back. And basically said, look, if they're not going to be here, even if we win this game and give our fucking all, we're going to lose, like, not make it to the end of the season because Haas is not going to come back and Ezra's not going to come back. And Kevy needs to be there as a coach, as a leader, him and Reynolds, and say, look, boys, let's win one game at a time. We can win this week. We can win next week. Don't worry about, like, we can have players back. But it didn't seem like you do that. So, like Kevy mentioned in this post-game interview, and I want to mention, like, now, is that it doesn't seem like the leadership, they're actually getting to these young kids, to be honest. And it actually is from the cliff that they had against, like, the premiership, 3-time premiership champions, that they were just on a high. Now it's like these young kids, like, just do whatever the fuck they want to do. And these higher-ups, like the Captain Reynolds, Carrigan, like, leaders of this team, they just don't listen to them at all. I mean, the quick job in the second half was Titans you knew they were going to throw punches, but like you said, to concede 36 straight points in the second half just seemed like, all right, look, even if Ezra and Haas are not going to be here today, they're not going to be here next week, we have to win every fucking game. Let's just quit and put a bow on this season. That's essentially what they did.
Yeah.
And it's just like the whole structure of the club needs to be re-looked at, because if, like, it seemed like that was the mentality. And obviously as a punter, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's what something that would happen. We would say at halftime, these cunts are going to fucking quit probably. But we know what this Broncos team is, so why would they just go out there and quit? But if we actually looked at it the whole season-wide, this is what they've been doing the entire time. Yeah. And to be honest, once they saw Ezra and Haas go down, I'm sure their heads went down and no one was there to pick it up. So Kevy, Reynolds, Carrigan, the leaders of this club really need to fucking wake up. Because as far as I'm concerned, you let the boys down because you knew that their heads would be down with Ezra and Haas going down, and it seemed like you did nothing fucking about it. The Jojo Fafita try on the edge, I mean, wow.
Yeah, atrocious.
Wow, that's atrocious defense.
Looks like a completely different team to the one that made the
This is
final,
nothing
so
compared to what you guys were putting up against Penrith in that must-win match that we were saying, where you guys gave it everything, and literally you could have beaten any other team that day except for those motherfuckers. To where you are today is night and day. And at that point, your season was alive. I think now everyone knows their season's dead. And I'm worried for them going forward. Because if this is the mentality they're going to go in every week, they're going to get fucking hammered every single week. Because it seems like they've got nothing. God knows who's going to play 5'8" next week. Probably Billy Walters. Like, I have no idea. They're not going to bring Rodgers back. My God, he's back.
Please, so heavy.
And obviously without Haas, it's going to be back to like when they have origin period. So
awful,
big worrying sides for the Broncos. And one of my teams that are going to quit with the Warriors and this team.
Look, I think I like him as a coach and I think he's done a good job up until this point. But I think if the results continue in the fashion that they have been going and to end the season, Broncos come 13th, like you honestly have to start looking at Kevy and ask yourself, is he the right man for the job? Which hurts me to say, but wow. Like,
and if you're going to bring Baz on board,
like, if you don't want to score, just hire Trent Barrett.
All right, we're going to go backwards.
All right, we're going to go back to
the memorable game.
The fucking, wow, who cares? Broncos, fuck. Dolphins and the Roosters played in the you score, I score, you score game of this round. And, more of the same garbage from the Sydney Roosters showing that they are not a true premiership contender.
Yeah, they're not.
You agree with me here?
I mean, to be honest, let me just put this into fact for these Roosters fans who now are going to win every fucking game, but I'm going to call them out anyway, as I do. The Dolphins lineup took 19 players to Perth. 19 players, which, whatever their organisation is, they thought they only had 19. 2 players, Nikorima and Pangai, both got injured during the week that they were there. So, obviously, they're down to 17. Pangai was injured as the 18th man. They're running on fucking fumes. And all you motherfuckers do is do the same garbage you do every fucking other round. I mean, the discipline is seriously in question. And, I know Trent Robinson has had his rapport and his reign and great seasons with the Sydney Roosters, but is his time, I understand they're winning, but they're not a premiership threat at all. I don't see them as a threat at all. They're just dumb cunts.
Yeah.
It's just stupidity letting Dolphins in this game. And to blow them out, go 12-0 within 0.3 seconds, literally.
8 minutes.
Let Dolphins score, all right. And then Sam
Plath
Walker.
try, come on.
And then the Sam Walker, wow, brilliant.
Yeah,
brilliant try.
Wow.
And then, it's just let him score, we'll score. Let him score, we'll score. It's not fucking basketball that you're just going to go shoot a 3 and it's all goods. Yeah, we're going to win by 8. What the fuck are you guys doing? You should have fucking murdered this team.
Agreed.
Destroyed them. They were awful. Dolphins didn't play good at all, but they let them score, didn't they? So, the Roosters' defense, which I've heard for weeks that they're so good defensively, and after I've called them out of the being fucking offside, now they're no longer offside because they keep calling it. Literally, the refs are probably listening to this fucking podcast because every time now they're offside, they get pinged and they concede. And the defense of old wouldn't have done this. So, look, it just confirmed to me that the Roosters' premiership threat is not there. And we'll get to the next one in the preview. But there is one other take I have on this. But I've said it in the past. So if you guys have watched our past videos, you probably know which team I actually think has a red-hot chance against them. But we'll save that for the preview next week because they didn't play this week. So hint, hint. This game was just awful watch. I mean, total points overs.
Yeah. They saw Cowboys Tigers and then these cunts were like, hold my beer.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, as Chris alluded to, Roosters 10-0 within 2 seconds. We've given out minus 11.5. Watch this close at 14 and you're thinking, all right, pay us out. But again, same garbage. And I actually want to illustrate the point that having had the performance against Manly last week, this was ultra focused spot for these cunts that, all right, in the situation that we go up 12-0, we have one fucking job. You do it once, all right, shame on you. You do it twice, all right, now you're just showing us what kind of fucking donkeys that you actually are. To go up 10-0 and then get to a point where you're down 26-20 to these cunts who literally had no fucking players at all. They're on a 5-day turnaround with no players and you cunts are scoring at will against them to start the game. I honestly can't even imagine how the fuck this got to 26-20. And then, look, we know that the Roosters roster is outstanding and that's the only thing carrying them to a point where they can put 40 points on the board at the click of a fucking finger. I don't even think they had to get too expansive. Couple individual bits of brilliance from Sam Walker, a couple good backhand shifts. The Tupanua try, wow, Dolphins are running on fumes to concede that. And honestly, if Dolphins had any other coach besides Wayne Bennett and maybe Craig Bellamy, these cunts would concede 60 points a game because they're just out there literally playing like a basketball exhibition.
Yeah, literally.
And then, similar to Thursday night, in my opinion, I think the Joey Manu sin bin. Did you think that was worthy of a sin bin with 10 minutes to go? Soft as fuck. But obviously they're down a player for the last 10 minutes of this game. And the Bostock try, even though you're down a player, there were still 5 cunts there. Why did you not tackle him? And on the right-hand side of the field where Dolphins just walked through Suwali, I was like, Jesus Christ. You're going to concede that? Well, I thought you guys are supposed to be one of the greatest defensive units of all time. But let's analyze this. You conceded a fuck ton of points to Melbourne. You conceded 40 to Sharks, 36 to Dolphins. The only cunts that you actually hold out every other week is Dragons. 30 to Manly. So that's actually scary hours. I don't know how you're going to take that sort of defense into the semi-finals and consider yourselves to be anyone in this competition. But there is still part of me that thinks they can somewhat flick a switch and they have the championship pedigree as an organization and Trent Robinson's been there, done that. But do the players even listen to this cunt? That's my next question.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing I want to call out is that the Manu sin bin was in line with what they called on the Thursday night.
Yeah.
If you're going to send off all of them, then if you're going to keep that consistency, then Manu should be sin bin.
Yeah, so they're consistently shit, which is good.
No. Which at that point, the consistency stayed. wait till
literally.
They definitely
that's
won't.
the problem.
That's the problem, right?
It's like they have two different schedules. Like, if you play on Thursday and Friday,
Literally.
this is a send-off. You do it on Saturday night, all good, play on.
Incredible. Was there anything else to say of this game?
No,
it was just awful.
The really incredible thing is what happened at 5:30 p.m.
Correct.
sharp.
So we'll skip to the next game.
I'm going to start this one. Shout out to the Zerafrost brothers. And I've actually organised today for both of you gentlemen and the rest of the Mighty Red V a formal apology, because I believe 14 business days ago I came on this pod in the review of round 19 telling you cunts don't show up to Melbourne. And look, I was right when I said don't show up to the Cogra against Penrith, and I thought it would be more of the same, but I definitely in my wildest dreams did not see an outright victory against the ladder leading Melbourne Storm in a tight affair where you win 18-16 and hold them out for the last 25 minutes of this game to the point where they couldn't even get a fucking penalty goal to tie it, to give themselves a chance in Golden Point. So, well done, Dragons. Round of applause for you guys.
Great performance.
And I think that's a good way to hand over to the Dragons ambassador.
Yeah, so shout out to the Zerafrost brothers. I'm going to say it twice. Shane Flanagan.
I have one more point, actually, before you get started. I think I've been beating the drum reluctantly saying that Serraldo is the coach of the year by far and away, but when I look at the ladder and I see Dragons one win behind of these cunts.
Well, two now.
No, one.
Oh, no, one, yeah.
They're one win behind. So in the event that your wet dream comes true next week at the Gong, they'll be tied. And honestly, I think Dragons have I think Flanagan's had much less to work with than Serraldo. The cunt's literally working with his son. It's like, bring your son to fucking work day for this guy.
Agree.
So I think Shane Flanagan's actually just overtaken Serraldo as the coach of the year candidate, in my opinion. This cunt is... He's literally a miracle worker.
Well, I think the candle might be out for you, mate, because I think it's depict again. The fact both you motherfuckers won just makes next week maybe the biggest game, one of the biggest games of the season. Yeah. And the way it actually falls together is that this is on the Saturday, and then we have another, like the top two clash on the Thursday. So we have a few great games coming up for NRL. This round was definitely not that. Again, there was only two good games. The rest of them were all garbage.
The first and the last.
But Dragons did put up a fight, and look, now the season's in your hands, and don't fuck it up. I mean, to beat Brisbane, which we know is shit now, but on paper, on the day, you wouldn't have thought they would have fucking won.
They were $3.50, right?
And you didn't have Ben Hunt or Lomax. So, like, to even win that game, we were like, well done. And within those three, with Penrith in the middle, you won two of them. There is no excuse now not to make the fucking 8. And you guys are awful, so I'm not going to say you're in no matter what. I think next week, if you do win, you are in the 8 no matter what.
Okay.
I don't think there's a way that you can't make the 8. And they would have beaten 2 of the top 4 teams. And that, for me, is enough to fucking these cunts make the 8. And to put up the fight you did against Melbourne, which I want to say about Melbourne, and credit to us, because we said it for weeks. These motherfuckers don't try.
Yeah.
So at some point, they were going to lose. Because the way they play is like, if some shit doesn't go their way, then shit's just not going to happen. And that's what happened, right? You know, knock-ons, 6 against, poor discipline. It's Melbourne. Obviously, we know Bellamy. Next week's this team. Fuck me.
Don't show up.
Don't show up. But watch them win now.
Yeah.
But Melbourne have this in them. And what's been happening this year is that regardless of how bad they play, they win by 2 or they win by 4 anyway. And this game was the one game they got called out. I actually want to thank the Dragons for actually winning. Because if you went through that heartache and didn't get the 2 points, it might have capitulated your season, especially next week. But now, I mean...
Yeah, shot in the arm.
You've got fucking exhilarated. Yeah. Literally. Like, to win this game has boasted your season. You'll literally have 10 wins. Yeah. You can't suck ass. How do you have 10 wins?
Yeah, agreed.
And now that you have a chance to go 11 wins and tie it with Dogs, who have been the story of the whole season, and to say Flanagan's boys with Fine, Sloan, who's been in and out of the lineup, his own fucking son, who was god-awful as per usual, Ben Hunt, Lomax having a breakout season, the forwards having an absolute crack. We haven't seen their forwards play like this ever, and they did it against the best. So, look, they have a red-hot shot now against the Dogs, and, bro, they've been shot in the arm. One team that you don't want to play, in my opinion. We'll see how... Usually Dogs would win this fucking game and win by 20 probably after I say this. But there's no excuse next week, Dragons. You guys have probably had the biggest spring shot of the season. And you know what? You are a big shot for the 8, especially if you win next week. But Melbourne, look, it doesn't really matter. So, I mean, the only issue is, as per usual, it's objective. Let Penrith win the minor premiership, win the comp. So, look, we said this from round 7. So, does it really... When they lost the Sharks, round 12. So, look, at this point, I'm done, like, saying, oh, who cares? Like, oh, yeah, Penrith's going to win the comp. Penrith's going to win the comp, sure. Like, Melbourne, you put up a fight. If you won this game... we still would have came on and said you played garbage, but at least you would have won the minor premiership even if you lost that Penrith game. But now the Penrith game is a swing game. It's still going to be great, but I don't think you're going to beat them at Blue Bet after you beat them the first time. But we'll see next week. And yeah, Dragons, big jump for you guys, and I think you guys are 7th right now, which is incredible.
Look, I'm going to just briefly touch on Melbourne side of things before I get to Dragons, but I think you're maybe, Chris, reading a little bit too much into this minor premiership thing because, look, technically, you come first or you come second. You're going to play fucking Dogs or you're going to play Roosters anyway. So, whether you play Dogs or Roosters, like...
I
don't think Melbourne coming second and having Roosters come there again, like, they fucking going to kill these comps anyway. All right, let's say it's Manly, let's say it's Sharks with Hines, like...
Yeah, but you would rather play Sharks. They play Roosters.
But I get that on paper, but I don't think Melbourne give a fuck about coming second and playing Roosters and beating the shit out of them for the 50th time, right?
I mean, so I still think
look, it's not ideal, but okay, in terms of the freeway for Penrith's 4-peat, I don't think Penrith give a fuck if they play Roosters or Dogs or whoever, whether they come first or second, right?
No, they don't.
The big thing is not falling to third and then having to go on the road. So I think correct. Melbourne, in terms of their like path to the grand final, same garbage. Losing the Dragons really doesn't change anything, and if anything, you should probably have 2 or 3 more of these type of bullshit losses throughout the season. So they definitely should have lost the Warriors when Coates bailed them out. They should have lost the Dogs in that 18-16 game, and they should have lost probably 1 or 2 more. So yeah, look, they lost the Dragons. They didn't play great. I think it could actually be a blessing in disguise for them in terms of focusing and fucking waking up a little bit. If they had won by 2, it'd just be the same garbage again that they think they can fucking play with 15 minutes of effort a game and win, but...
Well, they would against South.
South's... Wow, like... I feel like they're playing a different sport, so I'm going to get to them in a minute.
Maybe I am. I don't know. I think the minor premiership does, like... It also shows, like, these cunts aren't as good as they are, and they're actually not this year. Like... I don't think Penrith can say, like, oh, yeah, we're as good as every other... Because they're really not. And
they're really not.
This week
you saw that, yeah, so for sure.
They're really not. And, like, for them still to come first, it's like... Yeah. When are these cunts going to fucking leave and leave us alone?
Yeah, literally, but...
But, again...
Yeah, look, the Dragons' equilibrium theory I had is really going to be put onto the test next week now.
Well, actually, can they go to 11-9?
Can they go to 11-9? Whoa. They haven't been able to get that 2-game buffer in the win versus loss column for the whole season, but... as far as watching their graph of trajectory, I didn't see a win coming against Melbourne. So fair play to Dragons. Definitely the win of the round in a round full of retarded performance. Was it better than Para? I think so.
No, it was.
I would say yeah, because Warriors can lose to anyone. They can't score.
Warriors can't score. We said it. They can't score.
But to go and beat Melbourne, like especially in Melbourne, again biggest underdogs of the round, like that would be like Knights getting a win, which was never happening.
Oh wow! It was close.
Yeah, no, Dragons, good win, boys. I'm actually genuinely proud of your effort. The thing I said in the preview that I wanted to see from you cunts was go out and try for at least 40 minutes. That will show me a lot about your character, but this even elevated my thoughts of your character as a club more than probably I expected going into this game.
Well, actually, for the premium guys that do watch this, we did try 3 tricky games this time. 2 of them ended up being successful and save us, especially in the first 2.
Which we would have been on the wrong side of those had we just taken the line. Correct. So that just shows that, look, maybe a lot of you guys see our Instagram stories and see the sort of bets that we give out and think, oh, these cunts just like pick lines all the time. Sometimes we'll get a bit creative. For Chris, giving out power plus 20 and unders 59, 60 some bullshit in the Warriors game. Never looked like not hitting. Even though Power got a sin bin at the end, these cunts started fucking put 20 on the board to like make it look more respectable. Yeah. You're awful. And in the Roosters game, having to only lay 5 and take over 50 something when literally halftime had 50 points in this fucking basketball game. Obviously that saved us both times, but taking the shorter line with Melbourne, obviously you were justified in doing that, seeing that they were never a chance of covering 19, but when they lose outright, shout out to Barnesy. I think he came to me by Tuesday and he was like, Dragons better the round. And I was like, look, sometimes it's a bit hard to give out bets super duper early, but pre-Panthers Dragons last week, I saw Melbourne -11 against Dragons the following week, and I'm like, that's going to close at fucking 20 almost, and it did, but when Dragons go and ambush these cunts, it doesn't matter. So shout out to the Dragons.
I also want to say Flanagan's pre-game was like, we go through and watch Super Saturday all the way through. What Flanagan was saying pre-game is like, we're not going to fucking win. And all I want from the boys is showing effort. And then I was like, I know Melbourne's going to fucking not try.
Yeah.
Like, if they're showing effort and he's told them to show effort, then I trust Flanagan. And that's why, like, we say so much about Robbo. It's like, all right, Flanagan says they're going to show effort, and they go out and win when he didn't even think they could win. But they showed effort, right? Like, where is this with Robinson? Anyway, effort was definitely not there in the next one. Sharks played South.
Neither was execution. Wow.
Look, Sharks only scored 20, but...
And they covered -13.
Like, Souths were pitiful.
Yeah.
Souths were a different breed this round. Worst performance of the round by a long shot.
I have a question for you regarding the team wrapped around my neck in this scarf. Do you feel like they quit?
They didn't quit.
They didn't quit, which is the interesting thing. But they may as well have quit, because with the ball in hand, like, these cunts could have played for another 5 hours and they wouldn't have scored. Which, ironically, was actually comical that off the scrum, 7 minutes into the game, they go right and fucking Usain Bolt over here. Jai Gray just runs around K and Nero, steps him, gets on the outside of him, and obviously he's too close and fast to get to the trial. And in that case, there's no one stopping him.
It.
And that was it. Like, you could have got the spray. You could have got the spray paint out after this point. 6 points by the 6th minute and 6 points by the 80th minute in a game where that was actually very quite back and forth in terms of possession. Sharks weren't clinical themselves. Obviously, dropped the ball a whole lot. There was a lot of stupid calls. I gave South's field position, but you'll see the captain of Wots FC for this round, Dion, like, probably one of the worst individual performances of the season. Just like complete inability to give anyone any quality ball whatsoever, and to borderline play as an NFL quarterback at 7:30 p.m. on a Super Saturday. Like, it was truly awful. And I feel for the kid, because by the 4th forward pass, he was just like, fuck, it's just not my night. And yeah, it really was not your night.
Well,
and like, the Souths actually hung around in terms of the result and the spread for a long time in this game, because Sharks get
shit as well.
Sharks get a try back, get to 6-4, Trindle can't kick, and then you have the obstruction call, 4 players into infield where Stone Street scores, but they call it back, and then you have the next Stone Street try right on halftime where he dropped the ball anyway. No, sorry, he dropped the ball first, and then there was the obstruction one right before halftime. So, bang, bang, 2 disallowed tries for Sharks going into halftime, and if you took, like, halftime, full-time or something on Sharks, you lost, even though they covered the spread, because of how unable those cunts were in terms of their ability to score in the first half. But it didn't matter, because Souths can't score.
Yeah, well,
to be honest, like,
I actually want to call out the refs again for something else, and they've done it twice in back-to-back games. Stone Street's try was a try.
Yeah.
Downward pressure. Now, what they've done in the last couple, since the Api Coruscant thing, now because they knew the Api Coruscant one was a try, anything that's close to a knock-on, they just call it.
Yeah.
And Stone Street, in the rules of round 1, would have been a try. Today's try, I forget, Dungo when he dropped it, in today's world is no try, but 5 weeks ago is a try.
Sorensen,
sorry.
Yeah.
When he dropped it, apparently. But he completely had his hand on the ball. That was even worse than the
That was a tough call, bro. That was a tough call.
But, look, and then down the other, we'll get to Knights. Fuck, they got lucky. But, again, Souths are incapable to score. Now, my true worry is I'm going to have to say a prayer
next week
for them next week. I'm so sorry that they have to play Melbourne the way after they lost the Dragons. On a 5-day turnaround, I actually think Souths might lose by a record.
Yeah.
Melbourne are not going to fuck around. And if they really want to make a statement, they're dead.
Yeah. Okay.
Souths need to wake up.
Nah, Souths can just sleep for the rest of the season.
Fuck me. I mean, Souths could quit.
Yeah.
But
well, I think
they might.
The big thing, and this actually highlights the point I've been making for 10 rounds, and apparently no one gives a fuck, that Jack Whiten is just not good anymore.
Well, he didn't look like he took the reins. Obviously, I took South in the ladder challenge, but I was thinking Seahawks would play.
Yeah.
But I did call out on the podcast that he was kind of injured in that Raiders game, and he didn't end up playing anyway. So
yeah, I think the vacancy left by...
Oh, yeah.
Like, if Cody Walker plays instead of Dion, I think Souths cover this game.
Yeah,
because Sharks were, like, no world beaters. Yeah. But I think what Sharks did well was not allow Souths back in with some stupid try. Yeah. Like, set after set after set after dropout, they just repelled them, and then obviously like any other shit team, which Souths are shit at the moment based on injuries and ladder position and everything. If you have the ball for 9 hours and don't score, you're obviously going to concede some bullshit down the other end. So Trindle, Stone Street goes off. Ero's playing wing. Talakai just, God, Cheekham. Like, you just can't play him in the centres in any capacity. He bumps off Cheekham, gives it to Ero, and Trindle scores shortly after that. And then obviously they grub it for Ero and score again. And at this point, like, South's already cooked and they just can't score. So.
I honestly think, I just thought of it now, he's, as much as I didn't like him because he took my favourite player's spot away, Talakai.
Ero's gone, yeah.
Ero could be Rookie of the Year. I mean,
definitely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Every part of the field, the way he runs the ball from the back, his speed, defensively he's sound, but offensively incredible.
Yeah.
And like the try that killed South was the Talakai bump off of Cheekham, and then Ero goes around them and then finds Trindle, and they score from there. So look, Ero's had a great season for the Cronulla Sharks, and simply they just breed outside backs, don't they?
They're never short, are they?
Full strength, they're going to be a lot better, but it seems like Trindle's probably out for a little bit longer than they would like. Maybe finals time, which actually puts it in question of who the fuck's playing halfback.
That's not great.
But
maybe Blake Brayley or something.
I guess Brayley will come back, and maybe McKinlay will play hooker. I don't know. They're going to have to do something weird against Titans. But they didn't look great. But I know Sharks can play a lot better than that.
I think they missed Ronaldo a
but
bit as well.
Again, like I said, I think, don't want to gloat myself up this podcast, but I did call that. I think Sharks just wanted the 2 points at the end of the day, and they did look like that. It was just South can't score.
They honestly, Sharks covered on accident. Yeah. They were just like trying to go through the motions and get a win, and South's inability to score let them get to that 20 to 6 point buffer.
Myers, I mean, fuck me.
Yeah, no.
The back line is
Dion was something else.
And Jai Gray's awesome, but
I think he's awful. To be honest,
He played great against Sharks.
Yeah, he had a great game for sure, but like you said, at a point where like Tane Milne, Cheekham, no, Souths are gonna quit. Don't worry about them. I know this team, but like the back of my palm. Unfortunately, it just wasn't your year. Better luck next year with Wayne, obviously coming back to the helm.
Speaking of a team that hasn't quit.
No, it's like it was a really hard watch today, and the premium boys. I hope you just like took the bet, didn't fucking ask any questions, didn't turn the TV on, and just went about your Sunday afternoon, got ready for the Bulldogs game, which was actually a resemblance of a team, because Knights I've truly.
I don't know how they covered.
I don't know how they covered. Like, for them to only lose this game by 8 points was a miracle job. Yeah. Because, like, Penrith, if they had any, like, resemblance of lifting a finger or getting a call or having Edwards and, like, one other dick, like, this could have been 50-0.
Yeah, Knights were awful.
And, like, I don't know why Knights were getting calls. Retrospectively.
I mean, okay, we already said the try, but then this cunt walks down the other end and the gamble pass was 20 metres forward.
50 metres forward.
He still doesn't call it, and Frizzell walks through like, won the call.
I feel like the Penrith players actually just like stopped and they're like, oh, that's forward, right? No? Oh, you don't want us to cover today? Yeah, all good. Awful. Knights actually scored first. I was in my living room doing this because Gamble, as awful as he is at kicking, which, separate point, like the Knights kicking game is genuinely like eye-wateringly bad. That set after set, they just kick the ball 30 meters and they're like, let's go chase. There's never like no contest, no like actually
contesting with Fletcher Sharp.
The stat was Knights actually the 17th ranked offense, which I call this
worse than Para?
Worse than Tigers, worse than Souths. So yeah, I think in 2018 I said these cunts can't score, and I've been like, it's easy money. And I look back to last year's backline, and when you think, all right, Kalen Ponga, Marjuan Best on the left side, Gagai and Dom Young, with the form that he was in last year, makes much more sense to me why they actually had the capability of winning those 10 games in a row. But to see Fletcher Sharp and when Mapa Palangi was there, like just... And then not only are they shit, but like the shit service that you get from Crossland or when Cogger came on.
Like Bradley can't pass anymore.
Yeah, like their spine play. And like Ponga, I think, tried for about 5 minutes towards the end of this game when like just out of necessity they needed him to step up. And you saw how dangerous he actually was. But From that first Saifidi try where they went up 6-0, I was like, okay, we're on plus 18.5 and these cunts are up 6-0. Like, I don't think Penrith have that many points in them that they can just click a finger and cover 18. You know, that's a lot of points. 5 minutes later, it's 12-6, and Sorensen's putting the ball down to make it 18-6, but let's go double check this for no reason. Like, I don't know why.
Yeah, at that point, I think Penrith were going to cover.
Penrith were, like, Knights were this close, far away from quitting. But, you know, they get a call. Penrith, like, don't really do much with the ball. They give not really. Penrith like to give so many piggyback sets to give Knights meters out of their 10. Not that Knights did anything with the ball anyway, but
what do you mean?
I think like only luck through the calls and a little bit of heart got Knights to the point where they were actually tied with 10 minutes to go, 12-all somehow. I've seen everything. But obviously the prodigal son with the show and go shows that he's taken the 2024 season by the scruff of the neck in the last couple of weeks since his return from his hamstring injury. And Cleary again puts the team on the back, scores. They take a penalty goal, and from that point, Knights are cooked. Looked a little bit dangerous going down the right side, but obviously then Fletcher Sharp got the ball and got killed by that Panthers fullback, which was pretty decent on debut. Obviously, he's no Dylan Edwards.
I agree.
Or Dane Laurie. And your prophecy of will he run for 300 meters so I can come and scream at
Did he go through how many meters?
Not quite, no. I don't think he took that many hit-ups.
I think he got 200. He did break the line a few times.
He did, yeah. So he was okay. But again, desperate, angry Panthers team would murder this Knights team, but it just wasn't their day.
Yeah, no. Again, Knights seemed to play well against them.
But in hindsight, do you feel like 18 was still too much?
No.
I feel like it was.
No.
It should have been 17.
Actually, when it was pushed back at 19, it went all the way to almost 18 flat for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I don't know who wasn't taking Penrith. I guess everyone was just loading up on the mighty fucking Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Who ended up not covering. But I'll take this one because it was my upset alert.
Just before you go there, do you feel like Knights are still a chance to make the 8 or they just can't score?
No, I think they're alright.
They're okay?
They're a chance. I think they showed enough to have a chance, but they will have some. Next week's a must win. Can't lose the Tigers.
And do you feel like Panthers were looking ahead to Melbourne next week a little bit?
No, they have one more game, don't they?
Are they not playing?
No, it's the week after because they play Para, which they're going to annihilate because they really don't like them after losing to the Aussie. But Para, like they're trying to be frisky, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll go down to my upset alert. The last game, maybe one of the watchable games of the round, and I'm sure everyone's eyes were peeled for the 4 p.m. game at Belmore. First of all the Doggies fans, you guys absolutely packed out Belmore Stadium, and well deserved so. The Dogs have been playing great, and they won this game 22-18. I think. Classic 4-point.
Infamous 4-point result
between these two. Upset alert. I'm not gonna come here and be disencouraged because, to be honest, Raiders gave it everything they could, as shit as they are, and they were awful. And I said that on the podcast, is that it wasn't the fact that they weren't shit, because I knew they were garbage, but it's just showing some heart, and they definitely did. They hung in there. Honestly, one of the first games I've seen, other than the Savage fucking being an idiot.
For 5 minutes, yeah.
For 5 minutes. The right-hand side defense of the Raiders actually kept the left-hand side out really, really well.
They really did.
They really did a very good job.
I thought Timoko was fantastic.
Defensively incredible on that side when every other team seems to fucking concede to the same garbage. But on the other side of the field, of course, you have Seb Chris, who can't defend anything, and really should have made that tackle on that first try. And then Raiders pulled back with that Trey Mooney after getting 500 calls. Absolutely fine. Again, just garbage after garbage. But actually fine.
5 minutes into the game, right? I feel like this definitely had finals atmosphere, not only with the Belmore crowd, but obviously add in Papali's 300th game, which I gave him a round of applause as he walked out. Thank you for your service, mate. Fantastic player for about a decade long, and obviously playing all 300 in the lime green. And then 5 minutes in, did you see the when Fogarty kicked and kick out literally just put his finger on him, and he was like, "Oh, penalty, man, it's too late." I was like, "I've seen everything. It's gonna be you just don't fuck up good occasions of games by just setting that dog shit precedent."
And then he kept going, right?
Yeah.
So honestly, it was back and forth. Raiders got one, I think, a head high call early. It
was soft as well.
It was soft as well, but. Head high they seem to call very, very easily, which they did later in the game as well. But again, head high is a different scenario, but the offsides and like the kicker stuff, that sort of stuff doesn't need to be in a high leverage game. Like,
agreed.
This was basically a finals game for both teams, and they definitely showed it. It was a great game to watch. Dogs went out. I think what really fucked them, obviously, I'm already going to scream at Savage, but he'll be in Works FC. The drop ball, Burton headed it out of his arm,
it was
pretty funny, but short. That was fine. Burton does put shots on, and he definitely did one there. But then to come in on the same garbage, what I actually thought he was going to do is I sat there watching the game, and I was like, all right, they're going to go left, and Jerry's going to offload. It's actually going to be a pick six.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Because I knew Savage is a fucking idiot. He's going to come in, but at least let him use a brain and try and pick it off. Because you knew Jerry was going to fucking offload. Everyone knew. It's the same garbage every single time. But this guy just comes in and just looks at the... and watch Adokar walk past. I actually thought it was going to be 6 points the other way and really would have changed the games. But anyway, they score that, make it 22-12. And then, again, Ashley Klein doesn't say... No. I actually want to zoom in. Dogs didn't end up losing, but this would have been on every fucking TikTok or Instagram. If you zoom in on Ashley Klein, he says backwards. And then the linesman says, no, it's knock on. And he goes, all right, yeah.
Connor Tracy's one?
Yeah. He says, yeah, knock on. And then everyone's like, oh, fuck, we don't have a challenge because you dropped your challenge because of Kickow, who, it doesn't matter. Look, my point was, even if he stripped it or not, he fucking dropped it afterwards. Yeah. So it would have been knock on anyway, dumbasses. Anyway.
I think that was a frustration challenge because the
Bugatti should have scored, right? But then they don't have a challenge. They concede instantaneously, which you haven't seen Dogs do that in the past. Critter being an idiot.
Yeah.
Coming in, knowing that he's a little bit cocky these days. And he actually came in thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to let Kyle Weeks walk past me. But then literally realised he's the fucking Bugatti. Yeah. And he ran around him and he was like, fuck, all right, this cunt's going to score. And he scored. Rapana scored in the corner. And then Raiders had a few chances. Didn't really look like scoring, to be honest. There was that one short side play, which I don't know why Whitehead just didn't keep running instead of passing. If he ran, they would have had the speedsters there and they probably would have scored. But anyway, he passed inside and then they go down the left when they should have went right and probably would have got a call. But it's Raiders. What do I expect from them? So, to be honest, the right side actually covered in this. At 8, Raiders were the right side, in my opinion. And, I had more on the line and obviously premium, everyone was on the line. But it did hurt me a little bit not to see the star theory continue. So it's 3-1 now. But I didn't factor in the 6th star that we have fucking the greatest offensive player playing right center for the Dogs. I mean, two tries and the setup to win them the game, essentially. So...
Well, he owed them that because he was very rocks and diamonds in this game, actually.
Defense. Yeah, I mean, even the bat, there was one point he batted the back for no reason and then gave Raiders 6 more. Yeah. And then they scored. And
have some defensive lapses where he's just like, oh, good, I'll feed this cunt anyway. Doesn't end up doing it. And obviously, like you said, Weeks runs around him and sets up Rapana for a bit of a grandstand finish, but in the end, Raiders probably they're just
shit.
And I think Dogs did well to repel them to a point where if you were on Dogs head-to-head in your multi or something, I don't think you were ever shaking in your boots. But if you were on the -7, which I was on, conversely to Chris, I said in the preview, this isn't really as much of a play on Dogs. I think Raiders are dog shit themselves.
He's the ambassador.
But in saying that, I think the kick-out, no-try challenge into the Raiders try obviously was the swinging point of the spread in this one. But I'm not really mad with Raiders getting the cover because... they were pretty impressive in a loss, I want to say. It's very seldom you get a inbred team like Raiders competing their absolute tails off from minute 1 to minute 80, and that's what you got in this game. So anytime a team's getting 8.5 points and they have that much of a crack, and honestly, outside of a bit of Stephen Crichton magic on the first and the last try, and a bit of stupidity from Savage, Dogs really did not throw much at them. So if you want to look at the trend of the Dogs offense, that 40 points against Brisbane probably is not as impressive as we might have thought at the time, seeing as they conceded... I mean, Titans said, hold my beer, and they put 46 on these pricks. And then, again, 22 against Raiders, a couple of those a bit flukish, I want to say. Not many against Cowboys, not many against the cunts that you played before them, which is not coming to me off the top of my mind. But, yeah, still yet to be determined in my mind if they have the attack that can get them super far in terms of prelim... Week 2 of the finals, that sort of stuff. But again, for the Kennel, good win. I think this was a can't lose. It was a must win. They got the 2 points. Whether they cover it or not, they don't give a fuck. They're not punting, so fair enough.
But
next week, obviously, big test at the Gong. I think Dragons will be wanting some revenge, so we'll see how you guys go down there.
This was just fucking for their 3.5 cover at North Queensland, the other way, the equilibrium, right?
Yeah,
so
literally.
But yeah, I think the Dogs, again, like you won this week, which gets you to 11 wins, I want to say.
Yes.
But if you're going to let Dragons pair you up at the top, then there's no fucking point of screaming up and down.
I feel like the way they've been spoken about by the public and all this stuff, you think they have 14 wins or something?
Yeah, but they only have 11, right?
They're behind Cowboys, which I think that's more just Cowboys, like, I don't know how these cunts have 12 wins. That's the...
Well, Manly is still in front of them, so...
Yeah, Manly are good, though. Cowboys are something else.
Is it at the moment Dogs Dragons 6-7? Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, so... Yeah. Look, Dragons have a big to prove. That is such a big game. But yeah, we'll get to that next week. But yeah, shout out to the premium guys. Another winning week for us. I think it's 3 weeks in a row. So we're back on the trail for a garbage week.
I think we manufactured a winning week out of thin air because I think like your standard casual punter probably had a rough going with all these retarded results. Obviously, Roosters not covering the spread. They probably would have been happy after the Cowboys covered, but obviously we were on the other side of that one. I don't think anyone saw Parrot winning outright, for God's sake. Dragons was a shock. Dogs didn't cover today. Whoever took Panthers 13 plus even, let alone minus 19, that didn't hit. And Sharks, probably the dumbest one out of all, actually ended up winning.
Yeah, so only Sharks and Cowboys ended up covering.
Just another one of them rounds, and I think I'm skeptical of saying this, but we probably have 2 or 3 pricks going into this round that we thought were in the race that are officially out in Broncos, Warriors, Souths. Dolphins have an asterisk against them. They scored 36 and they kept it close. So it just depends whether they quit or not.
I think they play Warriors, so...
They do, in Redcliffe.
Yeah, so that one's like, you must win.
Yeah, so we'll see with them. Knights obviously still battling. Raiders battling. Dragons get a massive win and Dogs keep the wins coming. So that congestion in the middle of the ladder is probably...
And one big game next week is obviously...
Titans of War as well.
Actually, the other game that's also on the Saturday, but a bit earlier, is the Raiders-Manly game, which is big as well for the 8. So, we'll get that into the preview for round 23. Can't believe we're already at this point. Not long to go. So, obviously, check in with us a couple of days from now to see what we're liking next week. And if you stayed this far with us, appreciate the support. Peace out, guys. Enjoy. Take care. Go Bulldogs. Woof, woof.